Hello and welcome. In the last Gimp tutorial, we went quickly through some of the basic tools. This time we'll try to do a more in-depth analysis of Gimp tools and features. We'll discuss some of them in this video, but with focus on the Move and Path tool. The Move tool. With the Move tool, you can move selections, layers, or other objects. There are many different sorts of objects in Gimp. For instance, we can deal with image objects when the generic object is basically the entire image we opened in Gimp. We can also have drawable objects and tile objects, but we'll talk about those some other time. Whenever you have to adjust the location of a layer, selection, or path, you will need a basic knowledge of the Move tool. To select it, you can either click the icon from inside the toolbox or hit the M key. Under Tool Options, you have three options for moving objects. You can move them by layer, selection, or path, and thus this tool can be used in combination with other tools. Let's open an image. Now right-click in the Layers window and select New Layer. Give it a name and click OK. We've just created a transparent layer located above the image layer. Select the pencil tool and draw a shape. Now let's use the text tool to write something. As you can see, a third layer was created. It is the text layer. The layers are one on top of another. So whatever is on top is what you see first in the image window. You can also change the layer order with click and drag. Let's talk about moving by layer. Under it, you will find the tool toggle or shift. You can use it to switch options. The default option is pick a layer or guide. When this option is on, you don't need to select the layer that you actually want to move. If there are two or more layers, one of them being a text layer, all you need to do is hover the mouse over the text characters and then left click and drag. And Gimp will quickly switch to the text layer so you can freely move it on the screen. Please be aware that the cursor must be exactly over one of the characters. We cannot move the text if we hover outside them. That's because the text layer has a transparency to it. We can easily see that when we click on the eye icon to make the two other layers completely invisible. The other option under Tool Toggle is Move the Active Layer. This option can make your job easier in case you have some fine detail that's almost impossible to select. Let's go ahead and check it. Now go to the Layers window inside Layers and Brushes and select the image layer. With that layer selected, if you hover your mouse over the text and try to click and drag it, you'll see that only the background image will move. Use Ctrl-Z to undo and put the layer back into place. Let's go to the Layers window and select the text layer. If we go back to the image area and click, we can see that the text moves but the background image stays in place. You can click and drag anywhere in the image window to move the active layer. The advantage of this option called Move the Active Layer is that you're able to move the layers containing the smallest or tiniest detail. But with Pick a Layer or Guide, you will be able to switch between layers without having to select the layer manually inside the layer window. With Move by Selection, our task is simple. We'll just move our selection. Let's use Rectangle Select tool and select a rectangular region of the picture. And now, with Move by Selection activated, we can click and drag anywhere in the image to move our selection. So even if we click on the background, only the selection will be the one moving around. If we want to deselect, we just have to click again on Rectangle Select and then click outside our selection. This could be useful if we want to copy and paste a selection. We select a region, we hit Ctrl+C, then we press Ctrl+V and move the selection someplace else. Move by path. The object we'll use this time is a path. We have two options here. Pick a path and move the active path. Pick a path is similar to pick a layer. It's when you hover the mouse over the object to click and drag. And move the active path is similar to move the active layer, meaning that no matter where you click, the path will move. This is also our opportunity to learn more about the Path tool. So let's select the Path tool and create our first path. Under Edit mode, the Design option is activated by default. Design means drawing or creating a path. First click generates a dot and a square. The dot is the first node, and the square is telling us that the node is active. Now click again to create a second node, and Gimp automatically connects the nodes with straight lines or segments. This time the square is present over the second node because the second node is the one that's active. A node is a control point. By clicking and dragging control points, you can drag the path around and change the way it looks like. Let's have a look at tool options. Under Edit mode, we can find Design, Edit and Move. Design is basically the creation of the path. You create the nodes and connect them. But if you try to change something that's already in your path, you cannot do it. Design is only for designing or creating something new. Edit is when you manipulate the existing path. You can either click Edit or press and hold the Control key. And then if you click on the path, you can see all the nodes from that path. You'll be able to grab the nodes and edit the path. But if you click outside the path, nothing happens. Edit works only if you hover your mouse over the current path. Keep in mind, if you want to remove a node, you can do that by clicking the node and then pressing backspace. And if you want to add a node, you can click on the desired area of your path to create it. You can also move your path with the Move option. You can select it or just hold the Alt key. And then, no matter where you click and drag, you move the path around. This option is similar to your Move tool, but it is available for paths only. If you check the polygonal option, you'll notice that no curves come up when you create a new path. Even if you try turning the straight lines into curves, you can't do it. This is useful if you intend to draw geometric shapes made of straight lines. If we create a shape and we want to close it, we can connect the last node with Ctrl and left click. The points from our shape are called nodes and we can manipulate them. In order to modify one of the straight lines into a curve, we need to select the line and drag it out, and it will turn into a curve. The curves we create with the Path tool are called Bezier Curves. Gimp will also create two handles on both sides, so we can see one coming out of the left point and another one coming out of the right. The curve can change depending on how the handles are set. So depending on where you put the handle, you get different results. In theory, each point of a Bezier curve has two handles. But this also happens during practice. So if you click on another line and start dragging it, you will get other two handles, realizing that each node actually has a pair of handles, not just one handle. And by having different handles in different positions on either side, we will make each side of the node look totally different from the other one. Let's say you don't want to have curves on both sides. Maybe you want only one side to be curved. To turn the curve back into a straight line, you need to remove a handle. So press Ctrl and Shift and left click on the end of the handle. The handle from that side will disappear and the curve will quickly turn back into a straight line. But when you want symmetrical shapes and you try to obtain that manually through handles, you cannot get a perfect result. If you want to see the same shape on both sides, you have to grab one of the handles coming out of the node from between the shapes. Also hold Shift down and you will see a message at the bottom where it says click drag to move the handles around symmetrically. So if you click and drag, you will see that the two handles for that particular node change their position and become opposites of each other. The shapes will not automatically become symmetrical. Nevertheless, it will be much easier to achieve the desired outcome. You can do the same with the handles for the next node. That way you will have better results if, for instance, you have to create a complex shape with identical curves. Working with paths can be very tedious or tricky at first, but in time, through exercise, it becomes easy and intuitive. The Path tool is in the Tools window, but the Paths dialog is located under Layers and Brushes. This tab can help us see our progress in case we created several paths. In case we select another tool, the path disappears. However, if we go back to the Path tool and create a new path, the Paths dialog will also show our previous path, and the program kept the lines only as a reference. This helps us in case we created a path, but we want to generate a different one and also see how different it looks compared to the last one. So even if the last path was deleted and you start creating a new one, the Paths tab will automatically save the previous one. And this is good for reference. Also, by clicking the eye icon, you can hide or unhide paths. It's very similar to working with layers. Paths don't really show anything on the outcome of your image until you do something with them. With Path, you can generate straight lines, curved lines, or arcs depending on what you want to change in your picture. But again, if we want our path to be visible, we have to do something to that path. In order to make them visible in your picture, you can use one of the last two tool options, Selection from Path or Stroke Path. With Selection from Path, you can convert any path, even an open one, into a selection. You make a simple path, you click Selection from Path, and the path is automatically closed and highlighted. Now choose the Bucket Fill tool to fill your selection. It will be filled with black, because that's the default color. But of course you can always change it. Stroke Path will create a visible line along the path lines. If you don't want a particular width, you can leave line width as it is. And you click Stroke. As we can see, it took the current color and applied it to the path lines. But remember, those strokes are not part of your path anymore. They are already pixels in the background image. We can see that when we switch to Move under Edit mode and we change the position of our path. The path will move, but the strokes will remain exactly where they were generated. The Path tool can also be used to create a silhouette outline of a person. That way you can turn it into a selection and fill it with black to make it look like a shadow. You could also use it to keep the pixels of that person and remove the background. This concludes our video about the Move tool and the Path tool.